Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's 3 o'clock, and this is the Gulf Expat Show. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Welcome to the Gulf Expat Show. We are doing a special show today about Morocco. I know that's not part of the Gulf, as many people have pointed out, but as we have mentioned in previous shows, we're trying to kind of expand to other areas of the Muslim world where British Muslims are considering being expats. We talked about Turkey last time, and on today's show we'll be talking about Morocco with my co-hosts, my wife Rifka, and my son Yusuf. And we've got our guests who are lined up, who will be joining us very soon after we've had a little bit of an internal discussion about our views on Morocco. So we have a brother called Iqbal joining us. He lived in Casablanca for 7 years, a British expat there. And we have sister Nadia, who is Moroccan, to give their perspectives and add to ours, I guess. And we have a slightly atypical show today. So normally we run for an hour. Today we're going to be running kind of for 2 hours. So for the first hour, we're going to be doing our normal expat show, talking about life in Morocco, the perceptions of it, the realities of it, and some practical advice and what have you. And then branching out on his own, Yusuf's doing his own show at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so that's part 2 of the show, which is going to be more of a discussion about traveling in general rather than moving abroad. So it's going to be, so I and my guests are going to be younger in age, so we're going to be just discussing our experiences traveling and what we found.
Excellent. And so yeah, so Morocco. Let's start on Morocco. What do we know about Morocco? Why is it on the agenda? Why are people even thinking about it? We talked about Turkey last time and gave some reasons what the perception is and why it's kind of risen up the agenda. And I think Morocco is not very far behind Turkey when it comes to people's choices. Before you give your views on that, guys, the phone number is 07933 003 179. And you can join us on Ramadan.live, and you can join us also on the Facebook page if you want to see us as well as listen to us. And please do text in your questions, your comments, your views on Morocco on 07933 003 179. And you can WhatsApp and call that number as well if you want to join us on air. Yusuf.
So we're discussing why people want to go to Morocco.
Yeah, I mean, if you're which you are, a young man thinking, okay, is a bit of travel good for me?
Yeah.
Expand my horizons. Maybe I want to settle in Morocco, or at least live there for a while. Try finding work there. Why would Morocco be? Would Morocco be in your shortlist, and why would it be in your shortlist?
I guess it would be in my shortlist. Yeah, maybe not as high up as somewhere like Turkey, just because I haven't been to Morocco for as long, and I spent a while in Turkey, so I don't know it as well. But I think one of the main things about Morocco is its kind of rich history with Islam, and that's kind of the main drawing factor, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, for you, what is it for you?
Well, for me personally, the main reason why I wanted to visit in the first place was because actually of Moroccan people who I'd met, and all Moroccans who I've met are all really nice people, and it gives you an idea of what the country might be like, and so it makes you want to kind of visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I second that. I think there's a kind of there's a warmth and generosity of spirit and kindness, and also there's the location of Morocco as being, like a really sort of it's got a really nice climate, so you'd want to go there. It's not too far away from Europe, so it doesn't take too long to travel there.
Yeah.
You can get flights fairly reasonably, and so in terms of like doing the back and forth with visiting family back home, it makes sense to move somewhere which is Islamic but not too far away from home.
And relative to our experiences in the Gulf, what would make it better, or not worse, but what would be the points which you'd be really happy about, or other things which you would be more concerned about compared to Qatar?
So I think one of the things that I'd be concerned about is just generally the economy, and whether that would be something which would you kind of hear about, okay, Moroccans are finding it difficult to get jobs locally, so there's a lot of Moroccans trying to move abroad. Does that then mean it's a wise decision for somebody to try and move there?
Yeah.
You know, in the Gulf, you have like a glut of jobs in terms of schools and other things which are, you know, constantly being advertised. You don't see that quite so much in Morocco. That means that there's probably more searching to be done. You probably need more connections. I don't know, I'm guessing.
And general perceptions of Morocco, from what do you think the general perceptions are of British people of Morocco? What do they think of when they think of Morocco? Why do they think of Morocco?
Well, I thought actually that Morocco was seen more as a tourist at a kind of like holiday destination than somewhere that people move to. Yeah.
So I've got sort of lots of friends who've been there for like short stints, sort of holiday city breaks and that kind of thing. And they've all sort of loved the landscape of Morocco.
Yeah.
And love the food and love the hospitality. But I think the general perception is that, okay, once you move away from the big cities or once you move away from the tourist destinations, I think not enough is known about Morocco away from those sort of key areas.
And we keep saying Morocco,
yeah,
but obviously it's a big country.
Yeah.
And it has many major conurbations, cities, coastal and inland, mostly coastal. And then you've got the whole southern area of it, which is a vast desert. So it's not like talking about Qatar, which is a city-state. It's, you know, and I'd imagine, and we're going to bring our guests in soon to talk about this, the differences, there'll be differences in terms of culture, in terms of practices and cuisine, maybe even language differences, whether you're talking about, you know, the north or the inland cities. So we probably need to do justice to the various different cities of Morocco and not just talk about Morocco like it's one thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, and the other thing for me, anyway, you mentioned about the time difference, and it's close to here. One of the things about living in Qatar, which we always found not difficult, but it was always a bit annoying, was that especially in the winter time, during the British winter time, you're 3 hours behind, right? Or there's a 3-hour difference, 3 hours behind, depending on where you're located. I don't know what it is in Morocco. I think, is it a 1 hour difference?
I'm not sure.
We'll find out soon.
We'll ask our guests.
So yeah, so that can be a real pain if you're working and you finish work at 6 o'clock, and then it's, you know, by the time you get, it's 9 o'clock somewhere else, right? If there's a 3-hour difference, it's okay nowadays because of British summertime. But let's see. Yeah, it's GMT.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. We've had a message in saying that it's GMT. So that's a nice confirmation. When we did some background reading and stuff on Morocco, as we do prepare for these shows, you may find it difficult to believe, but we do some preparation. The 3 key themes which the Morocco tourism authorities and, you know, people who are putting Morocco out there for tourism rather than for moving to, were that it's cheap, it's exotic, and it's safe.
Right.
Right. And I think they're quite key elements, and they make it quite different from somewhere like from Qatar, right? Qatar is not cheap. It is kind of exotic, but not in a kind of filmy exotic way.
Yeah.
But it is very safe.
Yeah.
So there seem to be some key elements there, which I think would be attractive to both from a female point of view, but just generally from everybody's point of view.
I put a question mark over safe, the sort of, not generally speaking, but just in terms of the tourist areas. And most of the feedback that I've got from my friends who have gone over, like as a sort of a ladies kind of like a weekend break or whatever, have said that they've actually got hassled quite a bit by people out there, and they've recommended that if you do want to go, you go with family members, or you go with like somebody from your family who's male.
I've heard that, I mean, I'd assume it's different across the country in different cities. So I found that when I visited Morocco, even just for me as a male, like, it's very different when you go to Tangier compared to when you go to a town like Larache. It's very, very different. The people are different.
What was that second one?
Larache.
Nice.
Which is where my friends from. I stayed with them. Yeah, it's very different. And, you know, you didn't see any of that kind of treatment of women over there, but you would find that in somewhere like Tangier.
Say that again?
What? Larache.
So I guess we'll find out. We'll find out from our guest whether that's the correct pronunciation. But it sounds authentic.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think it's time to bring in our guests. So assalamu alaikum to Nadia and to Iqbal.
Wa alaikum salam.
So you guys, you have two different perspectives on Morocco. Not necessarily different perspectives, but Iqbal, just tell us a little bit about your experiences there. Just give us a 30-second bio of why you are an apt guest for this show.
So I had traveled to Morocco in 2005, and I had been there just for like a few days for like short breaks, and then I worked in Saudi Arabia as an English teacher in about 2009, 2010. Then I came back to London and I was looking somewhere to work. And in 2012, I decided to work there, and I was offered a job, and I thought I'd go there for a year or two. And I ended up staying there for about 7 years, and I got married and back here in London at the moment. So that's like a summary in half a minute.
So you were there for 7 years, is that right?
Yes, correct, yeah.
In Casablanca?
Yeah, so I was in Casablanca. So the capital of Morocco is Rabat, and the main financial center is Casablanca. So they're like the main cities, and there's also Tangier. So I was in Casablanca, where
were you there for the whole
economic
7 years?
activities. Yeah, all the time I was in Casablanca, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay, Nadia, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little about your link to the country.
Okay, so I'm British-Moroccan. My parents are from Morocco. I'm from Tangier, which Brother Iqbal just mentioned. And basically, the reason why I'm on the show is I'm thinking of going to Morocco myself and settling there.
Right.
Basically, the reason why I think Morocco is a good place for anyone to go to, and the reason why I decided to go on this show, is because I think Morocco has a lot to offer, and I think it's not too, it's quite a liberal society, and it's not too different of a culture shock like from the UK and living here. So yeah, basically, so I'm thinking of doing this myself, and I think after this show, I'll have a lot of a better, clearer idea about whether I'm going to do that or not, basically.
Okay, fantastic. We had a comment come in on WhatsApp saying that a lot of people, locals and tourists, when they go, they call Morocco the most beautiful country. So do you want to comment on that, both of you? Do you want to start, Nadia, please? Just in terms of natural beauty, I guess.
Yeah, definitely natural beauty and unnatural beauty as well. I think both of them. It's a beautiful country.
What's unnatural beauty?
Well, I'll explain. So, I mean, in terms of natural beauty, like the landscape and everything is so varied. You have mountains, you have sea, you have desert, you have, just basically everything. And so it's very beautiful. Like whichever season that you go and visit, you'll find, a kind of beauty. And then also, the architecture, the history, the mosques, the buildings, the zillage, the mosaic tiles, all that kind of stuff. It's a very beautiful place. And also the people, mashallah, beautiful inside and out as well. So yeah, there we go.
Iqbal, did you experience something similar? Could you want to give a comment on that?
I agree with the sister, and what I'd just like to add is just an example. In 2016, in the summer holidays, my sister and my niece and nephew came to visit me. So we decided to go to the north and the south, and we went to Tangier, I think also the city that Yusuf mentioned, Larash, and we also then went to Fenida, which is another city. These are coastal cities where you can actually see the Mediterranean and Spain as well. And then we sort of drove from there to Chefchaouen, and that is a absolutely amazing city, sort of tucked away in the mountains. It's like, you talk about Disneyland in America, but this is like a natural place where you drive sort of hundreds of miles, and then there's this like city, and absolutely amazing. And then from there, we came back to Casablanca, and then we went to Marrakesh and Agadir. So I agree with what the sister was saying. There's a mix of like cities which are inland, and then the coastal cities, and you've also got like the historical cities like Fez and Marrakesh. So it's just there's a lot of different types of landscape that different types of people would enjoy, and you know, would probably go back and visit again and again.
Okay.
Okay, if anyone wants to add to the discussion or wants to contribute, you can always text in. You're listening to Ramadan Radio, to the Gulf Expat Show. You can text it on 07933 003 179. That's 07933 003 179.
So should we start off with cuisine? Because I think a lot of people, you know, are familiar when they talk about Morocco. Yes, they talk about the beauty. You talk about you mentioned the kind of the Islamic history, but also people naturally, well, I do anyway, you kind of tend towards the cuisine. So my question to both of you is there any Moroccan food that doesn't include raisins?
Yes,
Who wants to go?
yes, there are plenty of Moroccan foods that don't have raisins or prunes or dried fruits. No, that is a feature, by the way, in tagines, where there's meat or chicken with kind of the sweet and kind of savory element. And if you don't like that, fair enough. But that is definitely an element. But I mean, it depends. Again, Morocco is a very varied country, and there's different regions. So I'm from the north, and like Brother Iqbal said, we're on the coast. So we have a lot of fish and seafood, which I absolutely love. And then you also have the Spanish influence, obviously, because they're just above us, and also the French influence as well. So there's quite a lot of kind of variety, and it doesn't just include tagines and couscous either. So, you know, the salads are amazing. No one talks about Moroccan salads, but I think they're amazing. Yeah, so there's plenty for everyone. I would say that Moroccan sweets, they all taste the same. So that aspect, you know, is not so great, but everything else is pretty good. Oh, and mint tea, of course, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Iqbal, how did you find it there as somebody not from Moroccan background? How did your taste buds adjust to, you know, going from seef kebab and biryani to tagine and the fresh fish on the coast?
I just got my wife sitting, who's Moroccan, so I've asked her to, maybe she can sort of comment. Do you want to just say
yeah, she's more than welcome to join. Maybe not. In the meantime, we've got a comment on Facebook, I think from one of your former pupils. Iqbal says, Mr. Iqbal, did you visit Agadir in the south? Great respect to our teacher, Mr. Iqbal.
Yes, I did visit Agadir. I'm just going to sorry, my wife, she was just going to comment on the food.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
We can't hear it.
Okay.
Okay. We'll maybe we'll come back to her and talk about the food in a second, because you know we need to talk about from expat perspective as well.
Yeah.
For the moment, the things we're talking about is really around, you know, you could be a tourist and you could like the cuisine, you could like the coastal areas, you could like the places in the south, etc. But from an expat point of view, what do you think our listeners need to know, Yusuf?
What, in terms of?
I mean, if you're actually going to move there, I mean, you wouldn't move there just because you like the cuisine. You'd want to know about work opportunities, wouldn't you?
Employment. I want to know about cost of living and general accommodation. I'd want to know about education. You know, I've seen people move there with families, so whether the education there is any good for children.
Yeah.
I want to know about language, because I know that Moroccan Arabic is very different to other Arabic dialects, so it might be difficult to like transition into that. Another one's like security, healthcare, kind of, you know, general infrastructure.
Okay, so we start with work opportunities then, because people aren't going to go out there unless there are work opportunities, and there's not necessarily a thriving economy, but there has to be some, you know, you have to be able to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Right. So Iqbal, maybe you could comment upon that. I mean, you went out there, you found work teaching. How did you go about doing that? Did you get the job from here, or did you already have contacts in Morocco who helped you with that? What could you advise people who are thinking about Morocco as an expat destination? What could you advise?
Okay, so in terms of, I think you've mentioned before about teaching, I think that's like an easier option. So English teaching is quite popular amongst expats, not just in Morocco, but in other countries as well. So what I did was I actually sort of had a list of language schools and language centers in different cities in Morocco, and then I contacted them and had some interviews, and then I was able to get a job. So as I mentioned earlier, I went there in 2012. So I went there in June 2012, and I had my interview, and then I agreed the contract with them, and then I returned back in August to start my job. So I think that's the easier option is with English language teaching. However, if there's another profession, then it's worth doing the research and finding out what opportunities there are before they actually get there. And English teaching is very easy to get a job there.
But if you, I mean, teaching English is one thing, but that kind of it's a particular subset, right? But what if you want to set up a business there, or you just want to, I don't know, you want to buy a property there and rent it out and make money from kind of Airbnb, that kind of thing. Is it relatively easy to buy property in Morocco? Are there other options outside of that?
Yeah, okay, let's, the other thing you mentioned about setting up a business. So I was actually involved with another Moroccan teacher to set up a business. And generally, I would say in terms of bureaucracy and procedures, it was quite easy to set it up. And there's a procedure, there's laws, and we went through those. And, you know, I was sort of thinking, you know, growing up in the UK that, you know, UK is going to be really easy. Going to another country, it's going to take like, you know, 6 months, a year. But what I found, I was quite happily surprised that the process was actually quite straightforward. So bureaucracy, they have something called the muqata, which is like the local administrative sort of place where you get your papers done. And, you know, it was quite easy. And, you know, it was, yeah, I mean, I would recommend that route. And then also property-wise, I've not gone through that. From what I'm aware from other people, it is generally quite straightforward. So
it's renting mostly, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I was renting there for 7 years. Yeah.
Okay.
So Nadia, you're looking to make the move out there. What have you found out in terms of like the job market? Are there lots of jobs available for like teachers out there? What about other professions?
There are lots of jobs available. You know, when you're looking online, sometimes, you know, when you're searching, you don't find up-to-date things. So maybe, you know, the job listings are a bit old, or, you know, the vacation, the job, what's it called, listing has been filled, or position has been filled, that kind of thing. So I think, you know, as with most of, you know, our kind of countries, it's about who you know, and if you have contacts, it makes things a lot more easier. I mean, it's a growing economy, it's a developing country, so things are getting better all the time. And it's so pleasing actually to see to hear Iqbal say about the bureaucracy, because, you know, Morocco largely, you know, the administration follows the French system, and the French system is extremely, it's notorious for being bureaucratic. And so, you know, kind of Morocco had a lot of the bureaucracy as well, but things are getting a lot more better. And I think things are becoming a lot more transparent and straightforward. The internet as well is transforming Morocco, and things are becoming a lot more easier, like, and you know, most things are going online as well. So I think things are getting better. Is it like amazing? Is it like the same standard as the Gulf? Probably not, but it's getting there. In terms of, like, I was shocked to hear that, you know, some computer programmers in you know, Morocco, they're getting the equivalent of like 40k a year, and that's like the British version in Morocco, which for them, I mean, that's super high wages. I mean, they live like kings over there on 40k. So I mean, it is getting better. A lot of companies as well, like big multinational companies, they're going to Morocco and they're, you know, setting up bases there. So there are opportunities, and they're increasing as time goes on.
That's true.
Yeah.
I was just looking up, Nadia, that there's there was a thing that was released by the Trade and Industry, a statement that was released by the government, saying that actually there's a grammar school in the UK which is intending to set up branches of grammar schools out in Morocco. I think 3 new schools by 2025, and Coventry Uni is opening up a branch in collaboration with a university in Morocco as well. So there's going to be like even more opportunities for like teachers and academics to go out there. There's, interestingly, they said they're going to have a teacher training school as well. So any kind of teachers out here who are into that kind of field, there are those opportunities too. So,
well, how important do you think language is in terms of getting a job out there and knowing the Moroccan dialect? Do you think you could get by with normal Arabic, or?
In terms of like the language of business in Morocco, it's I think mainly French, with a little bit of Spanish in northern Morocco, because you know that was under Spanish rule previously. But I think now it's kind of moving away from that, and it's going more towards English because of the internet, and I think and just general globalization. It is going more towards English. I mean, there's been a huge influx of British schools in Morocco very recently, which we never really had before. And I know like in Tangier, there's a British university and there's British schools, and Rabat and Casablanca and the main cities, Agadir, I think as well. So I think we're sort of moving away, like me, but we're moving away from the kind of French Spanish model and kind of embracing kind of more, you know, UK or English global kind of scenario.
And Iqbal, how did you find it learning Arabic in Morocco, or dealing with the bureaucracy that you talked about without the language skills? How far wide-ranging was the English speaking there in terms of going to the shops and that kind of thing? Your daily interactions. How did you feel the language barrier, or did you feel the language was a barrier?
Yeah, I mean, I'd studied in Egypt, and then I'd worked in Saudi Arabia, and they speak like a different sort of form of Arabic, as was mentioned. So they speak Darija in Morocco. So initially it was quite difficult to sort of understand in terms of like listening and in the shops and in the taxi. But over time, when I was there for like 7 years, and you get used to these things. So I was able to converse at a very basic level. But in terms of the point about French and English, as the sister mentioned, French is the main language in terms of business, but that's changing. So companies, I think you mentioned it, like multinational companies are there. Most of them are setting up the car companies, the IT companies are there. I mean, I had the chance, I was fortunate enough to teach sort of managers and employees and different personnel from different sectors. So they were all, I had to go to group classes or one-to-one classes and teach them English. So there's a shift coming towards English, and for example, their children as well are now learning English. So I think, as the sister saying, the future from a Moroccan point of view, they see it's obviously Arabic because that's the traditional historical language, but it's then English and not really French. So
okay.
French.
Can I just add that brand Britain is really like well respected over in Morocco. I think they kind of value kind of British products and British kind of, not culture, but British maybe design and everything over French and Spanish. So just putting it out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would say so. So like, for example, if they had a choice between a British product and the French one, the British one would have that premium, that kind of perceived prestige. So yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so you're listening to Ramadan Radio. This is the Gulf Expat Show. This is a Morocco special. You can text in, join the conversation on 07933 003 179. That's 07933 003 179. You can WhatsApp us, you can call in, text your questions. We're on Facebook Live as well, and on 87.9 FM in the South London area.
I just wanted to go back to the issue of buying properties and also renting out there. So if you give us like ballpark figures of like how much a monthly rental would be for maybe a 2-bed flat or a 3-bed flat, and then or if you have flats or villas out there, I'm not sure what the case is, and then also buying property. So and does buying property afford you some kind of residency or citizenship or something?
Is there a route to citizenship? That's a good question. Iqbal, do you want to have a crack at that first?
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the rent, I was there for 7 years and renting. So I was in Casablanca. So that's like the main financial city in the country. So there, the rental amount is higher compared to other cities. So right. I was paying about 250 to about £300 a month. That was the rent. But from what I'm aware of, other friends and teachers who are in other cities, I think like from Aga there, it's less. I think my wife, do you want to just come in because she knows that? Yeah, I don't know.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Like other brands, like in Casablanca, it's like have difference. Like when you want brands, Iqbal is like the area is clean. It's like the rent is higher, like between 200 and 400 pounds. But if you go to another area in Casablanca, maybe it's cheap, like 100 to 200 pounds.
Right.
That's mean Casablanca is an economic city. Like for Tangier, there because the salary there, if work there, is double than Casablanca. Because the international companies, that mean the rent is higher there. Because I have brother working there. That's why, like for his rent is like nearly 400 pounds there.
Okay.
For apartments, apartments like double rooms, like you have 2 rooms, and many like we say salon, like we have like sofa and this thing, and kitchen and this thing. Like for another cities, like it's not economic. Like for Rabat, like capital administrative, like maybe same thing like Casablanca, because there is all the old ministers and their thing because it's capital. For another cities, it's like it's cheap. Like when I was living, while I was born there, it's like between 100, 200 pounds.
Okay.
For a month. Yeah.
Okay. So Nadia, going to you, if you were to move to back to Morocco, not back to Morocco, but if you were to move to Morocco, which kind of area would you be thinking of moving to? And have you done any research on sort of properties or buying places out there or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I have done some basic research. You've got to understand, like every immigrant family, we've had the conversation from like when we were young. Shall we go back to Morocco? Shall we go back to Morocco? You know, it's constant. Okay, when they finish primary school, when they finish secondary school, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So this is something that we've been thinking about for a long time. In terms of which area, probably the north. I love the north of Morocco, Tangier, where I'm from. I just love it. I find the proximity to Europe. If I want to go to Spain, literally it's a 25-minute, ferry ride, and I'm in Spain.
Wow.
So it's not far. The sea, the kind of the climate is quite similar to Southern Europe. So it's not too hot, not too for my British kind of sensibilities. But yeah, so the north of Morocco. Plus, I don't know if anyone mentioned before, but the north of Morocco, near Tangier, they've got a tax-free zone. So a lot of businesses come there and set up businesses in Tangier. And like the sister said, Iqbal's wife, that it's quite economic and there's quite a lot going on in Tangier. So I think in terms of prospects, in terms of opportunity, in terms of the climate, in terms of what I'm used to as well, Tangier is definitely the place to be.
Okay. So we've got about 15, 20 minutes left. So we want to try and get through as much as possible. We've got a couple of questions coming through as well. But I've got a quick question for Nadia as well. Obviously when we talked about Turkey on Friday, we concentrated on Istanbul, because if you're going to be an expat in Turkey, you'll probably tend towards Istanbul. You might go to one of the southern coastal areas, or if you've got commercial interests, you might go to Ankara. But I'd say probably 80% chance you're going to end up in Istanbul. I don't know, I've made that number up. But I mean, how do you view Morocco from that point of view? Not from a British-Moroccan expat, but what would you advise a British non-Moroccan expat? Would they be equally at home in Casablanca and in Marrakesh and in Rabat? Or would you advise them, well, look, this place you're going to find it more difficult to adjust to or easier to adjust to?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Okay. So most British Moroccans, most of them come from the north of Morocco. So the Haraish, like Yusuf said, and Tangier and so on. I think it depends on what you're after. So if you're non-Moroccan and you want to move over there, I think you need to go and travel, have a look. It's not that expensive to fly over there. Have a look and travel around. Morocco's not that big a country as well. Take your car, even drive through France, Spain, take your car, travel around and see what you feel, most at home, which area you feel most at home. That's it really. I mean, I would say definitely do your research, and it depends what you're after. I mean, if you are into like banking and finance, probably Casablanca is your
Yeah.
kind of best bet. But if you're kind of, you know, it really depends on what you're after. So that's
Okay.
Well, what would you say are the main differences between different regions in Morocco?
Oh gosh, this is where my bias really comes out. Okay, so Morocco, northern Morocco is quite conservative Islamically compared to, for example, Casablanca. Casablanca, you know, it's quite liberal. It's not unusual, you know, for alcohol to be sold, these kind of things. It's like that kind of thing. But the north, like I said, is a bit more conservative. And then you've got the Sahara, the desert, obviously, which is a bit more kind of traditional, a bit more kind of less modern, obviously, and less liberal. So
Yeah.
it really does depend. Yeah, what was the initial question? I can't remember.
The question was just differences between different areas in Morocco.
Yeah, so yeah, there's food differences, there's language differences. My brother-in-law, he's from Mohammedia, which is near Casablanca. And my goodness, when he talks, I'm like, what are you saying sometimes? It's quite different. So yeah, I mean, there are differences, but like I said, it's about you and what you feel comfortable in. Personally, I went to Casablanca, and I've been there a few times. And to be honest, it's not my cup of tea. But then I didn't leave London to go to another city. Do you know what I mean? So that's my personal thing. But if you like the city life, then maybe Casablanca's for you. Again, my sister went to visit Marrakesh and she thought it was so hectic that for her, like her mind was spinning. So it's like she didn't really enjoy that. But then she went to nearby Essaouira, which is on the coast, and she loved it. She fell in love with it. So really, you're only going to know by traveling around and seeing what works for you.
And Iqbal, was that your experience when you, I mean, I assume you traveled around somewhat, you lived in Casablanca. Would you describe it in a similar way?
Yeah, I agree with what the sister said. What couple of things I'd add is that there's been a lot of investment in infrastructure. So for example, I think I mentioned earlier in August, was it July, August 2016, when my sister and niece and nephew came, we sort of drove by car from Casablanca to Tangier, and it took us, and we also stopped off at Nat Larash, what Yusuf mentioned. But anyway, so I think it was like 5-6 hour drive. And now there is a fast train, what is called the TGV, and you can actually get from Casablanca to Tangier in about 2 hours.
Okay.
Which is like really, really fast. So it's getting connected. I think what the sister said about is if you're going to go to any country, it's good to go and visit and see where you're going to live and look at the job opportunities. Just a small point about Casablanca and the issue about liberal. I agree with the sister what she said. Like, yes, things like alcohol are in the city centre, and that's more from a tourism point of view because there's hotels and everyone's coming there from all over the world. However, in my case, I wasn't actually living in what is called downtown. I was living in like the residential area in the suburbs, and there there's like no alcohol. It's not sold in the shops, and people's behavior is more like in line with the heritage and the history of the people, which is that they're Muslim people with Islamic values. And and that's one of the reasons that I stayed. And the other reason that I stayed there was that my students and the people I would meet were just really fantastic in terms of their behavior, the hospitality. There was one student that I was teaching, and then it was Ramadan, and then I went to his house. His mother cooked like fried fish and for the fatur, for the iftari, and then he took me to like this really big mosque, which you might have seen in photographs. It's on the sea in Casablanca, for the Tarawih Salat. And then I met the main imam, who's quite famous. So it's like it was, as I said, I stayed there for 7 years, and I wouldn't have stayed there if if you can't really settle in. And I was able to do that quite easily. And the issues of bureaucracy and getting things done, like finding rent and paperwork, you need some help, but it wasn't difficult. So yeah, I mean, I think it's up there in the list of someone who's born and brought up in in UK or in the western part of the world, and something they'd look at. In Casablanca, the other thing I'd say is there's a lot of amenities. So if you're used to like shopping in your Sainsbury's and your different kinds of shops, you've got the equivalent of like that there as well. So
right,
yeah.
Okay. Life there is not like Nadia was saying, it's not a big culture shock when you move there. We got a question come through. You want to?
Yeah, so there's a question that's come through. It's directed at Nadia. It says, Salam, would be great if Nadia could shed some light on what it may look like for property investment in Morocco. What would you need to do this? Do you need a Moroccan national on board to invest in properties, etc., if you're a non-Moroccan?
Okay, I'm not an expert, so everyone should kind of bear what I say with a pinch of salt. But I think it's easier. I think there's slightly different rules if you're a British national. I mean, not a British national. If you're a Moroccan national, or if you're a different nationality. Morocco is always seeking outside investment. So I think there are a lot of kind of encouragements or incentives for like foreigners basically to invest in Morocco. So I'm not 100% sure. But what I would say to you is the Moroccan dirham, once you put money inside of the country, you can't take it back out. And that's a really important thing to take into consideration, because the Moroccan dirham, you can buy it, but then you can't kind of take it, return it back into its original currency. So in terms of like, if you have, I don't know how it works in terms of investment or property, if there's a different rule for that, but that's just something to bear in mind. So you can't actually return your Moroccan dirham back into UK currency if you want to do that. So what goes into Morocco stays into Morocco basically. And I think it's a way for them to safeguard their currency. But
okay. Yeah. Did you want to come in on that, Iqbal?
I think it's something that's worth checking on the government website. I think they have a section in English, French, Arabic, and English as well. So I think you could find the answer there to some of these questions. Yeah.
But kind of, comparing it to the Gulf, you need a kafil, you need a sponsor. You can't open a business there without having a national on board. That's not the same thing, is it? It's not like that in Morocco.
No, you can set up a business either by yourself or with a Moroccan partner. So you don't have to have a Moroccan partner.
I think it helps to have a Moroccan partner, but you don't have to have one.
Can I ask a question about, this kind of mainly directed at Iqbal, but Nadia, if you give your opinion as well, sort of as a non-Moroccan, how easily are you accepted into the country? Like if you want to live there long term, did you ever feel any kind of, not racism, but did you feel kind of like an outsider the whole time, or did you feel like completely accepted?
I think in just one answer, I'll say it's like home for me. I was there for 7 years, and I could just go back there, and the people are really welcoming and helpful, and and it's just it was a great place to live. And the only thing is, I think if you're going to be there for a long term, you need to learn some French, some Arabic and Darija, and maybe some French.
Moroccan.
Yeah, I mean that's what. Yeah, my wife seems to be learning more English from me than I'm learning Arabic from her. So anyway, what can you do?
And Nadia, what are your thoughts on that?
In terms of
accepting other nationalities or people from other cultures or countries?
Oh no, they will accept you. In fact, they have this kind of like, they will treat you as a bit of a novelty. I wanted to ask Brother Iqbal, did they actually know you were Moroccan when they saw you? Like, did they immediately know that you weren't Moroccan? I mean, you look a little bit like my uncle. I'm not going to lie, my auntie's husband. You look a bit like him. I'm just thinking.
That's an interesting question, because I think Morocco is such a diverse country in terms of different kinds of people. So I think maybe my complexion might resemble some part of the South or something, or one place. But no, back to the main point. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's people are welcoming, and they're really respectable. And I think there's back to, I think, maybe one of the comments about Marrakesh, which is very much focused on tourism. I think that's like an outsider's view, maybe from UK, and that's where tourists go. But when you look at the country as a whole, there's much more to it than just the tourism. There's like the history, the cuisine, all these things that you've mentioned, and and they're there, and that's in the history, and that's going to be there when you go and live there, and you'll find these things out and discover them, and it's quite amazing.
And Morocco is quite embracing of like outside cultures. Like it's very, very usual. Like it's not uncommon for Moroccans to marry outside of their race. It's quite common. Also, we've got a huge burgeoning Bollywood cinema industry in Morocco. They love Bollywood so much. It's in like every cinema in Morocco. There's Bollywood films. And you know, Shah Rukh Khan is like a huge celebrity over there. I mean, I think we are accepting of all cultures, and we find it quite endearing, and we love it when people come to Morocco. We love it when they love Moroccan food. We just feel such an immense kind of sense of pride and you know, in our country, and you know, we are a proud nation. I mean, we're African, we're Arab, we're on the doorstep of Europe, we're Muslim, we're literally one of the proudest people you can be, like all those kind of things combined. So yeah, definitely, I think we love it when people love us as well. So it's like, come over, like we're very welcoming, just come.
It does sound like Morocco, there's kind of the social structure there is much more integrated, and it's much more loose, if you like. Not like, you know, we were talking about in the Gulf, in Qatar, and Iqbal, you were in Riyadh for a while. You know, your interaction with Saudis and our interaction with Qataris was kind of limited, right? I don't think I could imagine a situation where a Pakistani expat would marry a Qatari girl. No. I think it would be like, you know, just like a no-no, right? It just wouldn't happen. Or if it would happen, she'd have to leave and come back over here. Most likely, because you have to get permission from the government to do that kind of thing. And so you have that limited interaction, and you also have a very structured society, as we've mentioned in a couple of shows, where you have, you know, the Qataris at the, or the Emiratis, whatever, the Saudis at one layer, then you have the British kind of Western expats as the next layer, and then you've got the Arab expats the next layer, and then the Indian expats at the bottom kind of thing. But this doesn't seem to me that is the case in Morocco. It seems much more an integrated society. Is that a fair comment? Nadia, you want to?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I mean, maybe there's more of a difference between rich and poor rather than anything else. You know, we're talking about the upper, you know, bourgeoisie, if you like, and everyone else. But no, I don't see there being a big difference. You know, we're quite welcoming. You know, we'll have a chat with anyone, and you know, yeah.
Excellent, Iqbal.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. You know, I had the chance sometimes to meet like managers, and they were like quite affluent. And what I really did appreciate is that they still hold on to their, you know, Islamic values. You know, they would, you know, go for Umrah, take their family for Hajj, and you know, I think I've just got one thing, which is that you might have a perception of a country or people when you're not living there, or you might see on the movie, but when you actually go and live there, I think that's, and you meet the people, that's when you really understand how people are and how they think. So I think that's the way to go wherever someone intends to go and live or settle, and that's where you find out really what people are like. And so yeah.
Okay, great. Well, we are coming towards the end of our show now, so I want to thank our guests, Iqbal and Nadia, for joining us, giving us their Moroccan and expat perspectives. It's been a really, really useful exercise.
Yeah,
I think certainly Morocco, we've added to the list of potential expat destinations for people that want to try live abroad in a Muslim country. We've kind of expanded that list quite a lot over the course of the last 2 weeks. You know, we started off calling it the Gulf Expat Show, and we've had Turkey, we've had Morocco, we had somebody message in saying, why don't you do Islamabad? And there's probably other places that people still want to cover, but inshallah, maybe if we got the opportunity, we'll do so. So just a couple of announcements before we wrap up, and hand over to Yusuf for his show, which he's going to continue, and we'll just leave him to it. First thing is that we have our show back in our regular slot on Monday, inshallah, at 2 o'clock, where we'll be talking about lifestyle issues in Doha, the life of an expat, rather than talking about, you know, we talked about accommodation and education and infrastructure and things like that. But we just want to give you some stories.
Yeah,
right?
Personal
experiences. And anecdotes and what have you. So you get a flavor of what life is like for an expat in the Gulf specifically, and hopefully you've got some flavor about Morocco and Turkey from our previous shows. And then on Friday
we'll be discussing practicing Islam and raising children in the Gulf, and how that might differ to over here. So talking about Muslim expat communities, talking about you know,
the impact that it had on us in terms of our own faith and our own iman, and kind of how we felt that changed being abroad compared to being over here.
And then possibly the following Monday, we may also be doing an additional show after Eid, because we had a lot of requests to do like a second show about Turkey. And also, you know, when we did our show on Turkey, we only got through about half of what we wanted to talk about. But that's still to be confirmed. But certainly on Monday, inshallah, at 2 o'clock, and on Friday at 3 o'clock, you can join us then. In the meantime, I just remind everybody that tonight is the 25th night. So please do have some coffee and some tea and stay up and do your dhikr and your dua. Don't forget to do that. And until next time, inshallah, we say thank you again, Jazakallah khair, to our guests.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, now that the show is kind of coming to an end, I wanted to say to Nadia, who was my teacher, basically, you're my favorite teacher all throughout education.
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Jazakallah khair. You're my favorite student, but don't tell anyone.
So on that note, we'll hand over to Yusuf, and from us, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We'll leave.